forgiveness. And when I went through this really horrific divorce that I went through in 1998, all of my spiritual friends said to me, you know, you have to forgive your husband. You know, like I'm in hiding and I can't come out of hiding and I'm working on a lifetime restraining order and they're saying to me, forgiveness is the most important thing. And I'm saying, are you insane? What about survival? I'm talking about survival. Why are you talking about forgiveness? Of course, they were right. They were 100% right. What I've now learned is that the only solution for me was forgiveness. The only solution for any of us is forgiveness. That doesn't mean that you stay in that messy relationship. That doesn't mean that this person continues to be in your life. It means that whatever decision you make, you still have to forgive what happened, because the alternative is just too dangerous for you. That's the key here.
That really makes sense. That's very powerful. Now, how can people really best accomplish this state of forgiveness?
10 years ago, I met somebody named Howard Wills, who is a remarkable, remarkable guy. And his website is howardwills.com. And I really urge you to take a look, or you can go to my YouTube channel, which Gigi's going to announce later on in the show, and look at shows that I've done with Howard. You'll see a clip of one of them tonight. This guy has a unique gift. He has the ability to connect with the divine in a way that I've never seen anyone else do, and symptoms and diseases disappear. And I've seen this again and again and again and again and again. So anytime there is a symptom, anytime there's a disease, anytime there's an illness, anytime there's an ailment, what I always say to everybody is, please have a session with Howard immediately. You don't want to keep suffering, and it's really too dangerous. If you keep suffering, the situation usually gets worse. So this is the remarkable, remarkable person. And it's Howard Wills, spelled the same normal way. Howard and Wills, WILLS.com.
And I'm guessing Howard would probably have us forgive ourselves as well.
Yeah, the prayers are all about forgiveness, so you'll see them. You'll see the prayers on his website. And it's, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, and clearing out all of the junk that has accumulated for millions of years in your lineage. And that's what the key is, that you may be living a transformed spiritual life as I thought I was, and then boom, something came along, and it turns out it was in my lineage. So you have to keep clearing yourself, and as you clear yourself, you're also clearing your lineage. That means your ancestors.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Howard. Now, is there any relationship issue that cannot be forgiven?
You have to be in a state of forgiveness. So if you're working with me as a coach, then my comment is, well, how did you allow yourself to get into this relationship? Or why did you allow yourself to stay in this relationship? Or what skills and tools did you need from me in order to get out of the relationship in a peaceful and safe way? So these are normal topics that I work on with clients all the time. Every week I have a client who's got to get out of a bad relationship, or is getting out, or has gotten out and needs to create peace with the past. But the key for you is you have to learn how to avoid those relationships. Forgiveness is essential, forgiveness of self and others, and even more valuable is to avoid, whenever humanly possible, those challenging relationships.
Beware of the company you keep. Oh my. Now, in addition to forgiveness, what is the single most valuable component of healing that you have seen?
You have to commit yourself. You have to become 1,000% committed to living a peaceful and joyous and healthy life. In other words, you have to disconnect yourself from the drama. You have to stay disconnected from the drama, and your health has to become more important to you than anything else in your life, so that you are willing to learn the skills and the tools and put your whole house in order. Because anyone who has a difficult disease, or in some cases a life-threatening disease, this is a wake-up call for you, that now is the time for you to do things differently, live a different life.
Very nice. Now, can you give us an example of someone with a serious health issue who practiced forgiveness and great results?
Well, you're going to see Christine in the clip today, and that's why I want to speak about her, because she always had the very, very best approach. And she had this horrible diagnosis, which she'll discuss. But she was ready to put all that in the past. When I first met her, she was ready. She didn't know what to do. She didn't have the skills. She didn't have the tools. She hadn't met Howard Wills. She certainly had not gone into remission. And she was willing and open to learn whatever I could teach her to turn this around. And the minute I told her what works, which I'll be discussing with you later in the show, the minute I told her what works, she started doing it. She continued to do it. And she's doing it to this day, which is a huge testimony to her. Because I tell a lot of people what works, and they may remember it for 5 minutes or not even 5 minutes. And, months later, they certainly don't remember it. Whereas with Christine, she has been doing it since the first moment she heard me talk about it. And that is a level of commitment to well-being, commitment to health, commitment to joy, commitment to success, commitment to longevity. That is a very rare thing indeed.
Lucky girl, she paid attention to you,
Yes.
followed through.
Yeah.
Now, you've had many great results with Howard Wills. Could you please tell us why his gift is so unique?
I don't understand, nor do I even attempt to understand, why the people that I send to Howard have their symptoms disappear and why the diagnoses are overturned. I don't know why 10 years ago, when I had horrible asthma for 57 years, allergies, breathing issues, I don't know why it suddenly disappeared. I honestly don't. I just know that this guy has an incredible gift, and one of the senior people in genetics at Harvard is his very dear friend, and they trust Howard, and lots of MDs trust Howard. And I was just at an event on Sunday, and a very prominent judge was there with his wife. He trusts Howard. So all I can say is, this is not something that the mind understands. This is something beyond the capability of the mind. So I have seen it in action, and I really invite you, look at my TV shows with Howard on my YouTube channel. You'll be stunned, you'll be confused, you'll be amazed. And the truth is, you can have all of those responses and still be perfectly healthy as I am. So you can be completely confused and not understand it and not believe it and still have this guy work on you, and you can get healthy. So to me, that's the answer. Just do it whether you understand it or not.
And the results will come.
That's right, they do.
Oh, I snapped my finger. Hi, Howard.
Excellent.
Now, what examples of remarkable healings have you personally seen at a Howard Wills event?
I have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in 10 years who raised their hand and had Howard work on them, and by the time the program was over, the symptoms were over too. And then when they went to their doctor, if they wanted to have the test showed that they did not have the ailment they had when they walked in the door. So whether it's my friend Adam, who had type 2 diabetes, and you can see him on 2 of my TV shows with Howard, and he was tested the day before the show in June. Howard worked on him on the show, and on it goes. Actually, that was an earlier show, forgive me. He came back in June and told us all about it. So, diabetes, hearing, vision. I was just with a very famous actress whose name I'm not going to mention, and she could not see out of her right eye when she arrived. And this was an event in the beginning of October. And by the time she left, and he had just worked on her for like 3-5 minutes, by the time she left, he could tell how many fingers he was holding up. And he will, of course, be working on her some more. She's known him for years. Cancer, again and again and again and again. And isn't that the most frightening diagnosis for anybody? So this Sunday, I was with him for hours and hours in an event. One woman has breast cancer and some other symptoms. Another woman has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And he worked on each of them a lot. And each of them, their symptoms completely disappeared. They were in pain, they were in discomfort, and by the time he finished working on them, they felt great, and they looked different. One of them also had peripheral neuropathy and couldn't feel the bottom of her feet for a long, long time until Howard started working on her, and she could feel her feet. Amazing stuff happens. Just amazing. I could think of all the different things and all the different people, and it's basically every disease known to man. Because I have sent him so many of my clients and their family members who suffer, and the results are amazing.
Oh, we just love Howard and his gifts. Now, when Howard works on someone, you also teach them a new language to enhance and extend the results. Could you explain this?
Yeah, so I teach something called goal-reaching skills. That's what I teach with my Heartspace clients. And whether they're interested in learning how to date or have a great marriage or reconcile a relationship or avoid divorce or have a peaceful, no-court divorce, it doesn't matter. I'm going to teach them all of these skills. So goal-reaching skills starts with by day, month, year. So what is the day, month, year by which Christine wanted to be completely healthy and in remission? Well, whatever that day and month was, it was, accomplished. It was accomplished long before that. And then what is it that she wanted accomplished? So by day, month, year, she would have said, the doctors tell me I am in complete remission. That was it. So that is exactly what happened. And she was also taught by me to say, the doctors say I have blank, 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 as opposed to believing that you have it and reinforcing that belief with your language. And also, instead of calling it my, and then saying the name of this terrible disease, I teach people to say the disease. So fill in, instead of the word disease, whatever some doctor told you you've got. And so if you have to talk about these things, if you have to discuss them, if you have to talk about this with your friends and your family, at least you're not reinforcing the diagnosis. You're not making it harder to let go of, harder to get rid of, harder to move beyond. And while I don't understand this, since I do know that everything is energy, you know that, then the bottom line is we seem to get a vibration state that's higher than the disease. That's the only thing I can understand, that we get ourselves up here and the disease is down there and it no longer affects us. Just as you can be in a state of joy and you come into a room of people who are very, very depressed or angry, you don't want to stay in that room, and please don't stay in that room, and you don't become one of them. Because it would take a lot for you to become this depressed person that is like the other folks in that room. So that's what a vibrational state is all about.
And the fact that you tell people to go, that you're going through a disease, you're going through it, you don't own it.
Or actually, I don't even tell them that they're going through it, because that would imply that they really have it. And in fact, we know that everything's energy.
There you go.
So the key is all of these stories that doctors have invented. You have to understand, my father was a famous surgeon. It's all invented. Someone comes up with a name for a bunch of symptoms. There's no such thing called this disease or that disease or the other disease. That's what some medical person has named it so that he or she could describe it and refer to it. It's just what Marshall Rosenberg says about depression or borderline personality disorders or, bipolar disorder. There's really no such thing as that. We know that patients who have that have lots of different versions of that. It's just a way that doctors have to describe the thing and theoretically discuss it with each other. But if you are this person who's been labeled in such a way, You don't want to continue the labeling process. You don't want to fight with anyone who's labeling you, and you want to disconnect from the labeling. It's really important. Thank you.
That's very clear. Thank you, Susan. Words like names of the diseases and conditions can be big triggers for people. What do you recommend that they do about this?
You just have to create a different reality for yourself. You know, there's a very famous story I tell about a client's fiance. And she had been my client for some time, and this engagement was a miracle. It was a 10 times miracle. And they had a wedding date set, and that was going to be the millionth miracle. And this was everything she had ever dreamed of her whole life. And then her fiance goes to his doctor for a checkup, and the doctor tells him that he's got a spot on his lung. You know, and a spot on your lung is, God forbid, if anybody ever told you that, that's what they mean when they're trying to dance around the fact that they think somebody's got lung cancer. So she called me what to do, and I said, well, it's easy. You immediately have your fiance have a session with Howard, or maybe 2 sessions, or maybe 3 sessions, because you are not going to go back and have this test until after Howard has worked on you. You're not. It makes no sense. And her fiance, and I'll spoiler alert, now her husband, who is a very brilliant guy, he's a very, very wealthy and successful guy. His attitude was, well, he was going to treat Howard like another medical expert. So if I go and I have the x-ray and then they still find this problem, then I'll call Howard. I said to her, no, that's not how you do it. If he waits and gets this horrible diagnosis, then think of all the stress he's going to have. Think of all the suffering he's going to have. Think of how much pressure the doctor's going to put on him to have medical testing. I don't go along with any of that. You want to avoid all of that. The upset, the expense, the trauma, all of it. So I really, really, really motivated and inspired and did some pushing too. And so he went to Howard. Howard worked on him just once. He went back and he had another lung x-ray. The doctor said, you're perfectly fine. Oh, I must have made a mistake. So my client's fiance said to the doctor, what do you mean you made a mistake? Well, it's probably just an old scar from something that happened years and years ago. Nothing to worry about. So my client's husband, the fiance again, is saying, well, but what should I do? He's an old-fashioned guy. He doesn't understand all this new age stuff. But what should I do? And the doctor, God bless him, said, no, there's nothing for you to do. There's nothing there. But that happened in that way because my client was my client, because she knew how to motivate her fiance, because she knew how to engage with him in such a way that he would be willing to speak to me, and then he would be willing to communicate with his doctor the way he did. So they are a very unusual couple. In the world, you won't find many like that. But because of it, she has this remarkable life, this fabulous life.
And I imagine they're both quite grateful to you.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
How important is a positive attitude for healing and remission?
Well, it's not enough to have a positive attitude. You have to be in a state called positive expectation and belief, which is higher than just feeling hopeful or positive. So positive expectation and belief is on the Abraham Emotional Guidance Scale, which I'll be happy to send you if you send me an email. I will be delighted to send it to you with a whole explanation. And the key is you've got to reach for positive expectation and belief. You've got to keep pushing yourself up there. So incrementally, one step at a time, one rung of the ladder at a time, you're pushing, pushing, until finally you get to the place where you just feel positive, it's all going to be great, it's all going to happen just the way I want it. I enjoy perfect health, I'm always enjoying perfect health. Done.
Oh, I love that frame of mind. Now, what about worrying? What difference does it make when people have that habit?
Well, as I said, health is a state. It is really what you might call an emotional state or a vibrational state. It's my preferred word for it. But it's when you're just upbeat all the time. Positive expectation, great things are happening, great things have happened, great things will happen. And if you let yourself worry, you are destroying your state. You're destroying your immune system is another way of expressing this. So you've got to work really, really hard to get your immune system where it needs to be and get it to stay there. So that's why I teach people different tools and different skills and offer support when I work with somebody who's got a crucial health issue. Whether they're willing to work with Howard or some people are very old-fashioned and don't want to, it still is that they must use the tools and skills I teach to get their vibrational state up and to be in a positive state of expectation and belief, whether they're using a doctor or whether they're going to someone who does energy work.
I have a lot of hope being around you.
Yes. You always have a lot of hope.
Yes.
And even better.
Yes.
And even better.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And as often as worry, there's anger at someone or at a situation, what effect can that have on our well-being, our health?
Well, listen, I've seen the damage that worry has done for me in my life, and I was never happy and healthy enough to be angry. Angry is a higher state than worry. So I was always so panicky and worried because I had trouble breathing that I never even got myself up to anger. But in the last 10 years, I've been healthy. I'm happy to announce that I am capable of experiencing anger. However, it is just as dangerous as worry ever was. And I have seen that if I allow myself to stay angry, I suffer with some symptom. And it depends what part of your body is most vulnerable. You know, obviously because I had these, asthmatic things and allergy things and breathing things for all those years, 57 years, then, clearly it's where it hits. So I have to be really careful if I don't want a cold, if I don't want bronchitis, if I don't want, any of that. I have to be so careful. And so I remind myself, do the exercises, Susan, that you teach everybody else to do so you won't be angry. And do Howard's prayers, because Howard's prayers are fabulous. And they get you right into a state of forgiveness.